So this officially begins the 44th broadcast of Power to Sing Live, and today our topic is singing too loud, too hard, and the consequences. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. This is Power to Sing broadcast live number 44. All right, so this is a really interesting topic because I saw this article was actually forwarded to me by one of my students who himself is a physician, and I wanted to bring this to your attention if you haven't seen it. Now, on my website, I have a not on my website, on my Power to Sing page, Power to Sing Facebook page, I posted an article I found yesterday from The Guardian. And it's written by a gentleman named Bernhard Warner. And I really want to give him credit for I think this is a very well written piece. And I wanted to share some of this information with you today and then make some comment on it. Before I do, let me just welcome you who've joined, and it's so great to have you with us today. Ty Wilson, hi. Christian Hirschfield, very nice to have you with us today. Hardick, hi Joe. Hardul. Journey, nice to have you with us, and thank you. He says the live broadcasts are incredible. I hope so. Hope they continue to be so. And so let me discuss this because the title of his piece was "Why Do Stars Like Adele Keep Losing Their Voices When They Sing?" And the byline is "Why." More and more singers are canceling big shows and turning to surgery to fix their damaged vocal cords. But is the problem actually the way they sing? And this again is found in The Guardian. You can go to my Power to Sing Facebook page and find the link to this article. It's rather long, but it's extremely insightful. Now, he talks a little bit about Adele's surgeon, Dr. Stephen Zeitels. And I don't know whether he goes by Zeitels or Zeitels. Please forgive me, doctor. But this is interesting. After a nasty polyp that had formed under Adele's epithelium, the outer layer of the vocal cord, Zeitels carefully snipped the layer with a scalpel and then with forceps pulled back the tissue like a flap, exposing the polyp below. With a second set of forceps, he pulled out the gooey infected mass, zapping the remaining hemorrhaged surface with the laser to stop the bleeding and prevent scarring. So it's a margin of error in such surgeries is measured by fractions of a millimeter. You can't let the instruments touch healthy tissue. Dig too deep, Zeitels knew, and he would risk damaging the superficial lamina propria, the soft, pliable underlayer of Adele's vocal cords. If he pierced that, he told me, there would be no way to preserve the power and suppleness of her voice. As we all know, well, this was the surgery that she had, back in 2011 or so. So 3 or 4 months later, she won, I think, like 6 Grammy Awards. So, and as we know, the surgery was a success. This time, it's I don't know what the situation is at this point. However, let me just make a couple observations here. He goes, the article goes on. Beautiful singing requires lithe chords, but all that slapping together can wear down their fine, spongy surface and lead to tiny contusions. Over years of heavy use, nodules, polyps, or cysts form on the vocal folds, distorting the sound they create. For a singer, the first sign of trouble is often a wobble. In other words, the vibrato really slows. His pitch fluctuates on and off key because his ragged chords have lost their natural vibrato, their ability to resonate properly. Then there's the whole, a point on the scale where a singer's vibrating vocal cords fail to produce the proper tone. Try as he might, those notes will exit his mouth flat or worse, as a barely audible gasp. And so when you get a lesion on the vocal cords themselves, you can just be you can carry it up the scale. It just cuts out. Creates a spot where sometimes you can't even make a sound, or it's breathy, or it's hoarse, and going on. It was once unheard of for a singer to perform with a faulty voice, but the opera world has recently been shaken by a trio of incidents in which stars have walked off stage mid-performance, unable to go on. Some opera singers complain of year-round cold symptoms, and legal steroid injections and other drugs are often used to get the struggling singer through a performance. But singing through the wear and tear can cause the lesions to burst and bleed, creating voice-ruining scars, which is what happened to Adele in 2011. Now, you said voice specialists. Gosh, there's so many different things here I wanted to share with you. I mean, this is not just Adele. Dr. Seidel's business, this is, he said in Massachusetts General, I believe, and associated with Harvard University, professor there. In the years since Seidel's business has boomed, along with those many of his peers, they have no shortage of patients. There is an epidemic of serious vocal cord injuries in the performing arts. An epidemic. In addition to his work on Adele, Seidel, who directs a Mass General Hospital Center for Laryngeal Surgery and voice rehabilitation, has repaired the cords of more than 700 performing artists. And thank goodness for Dr. Seidel, including Sam Smith, Lionel Richie, Bono, Cher, Michael Bublé, Keith Urban, Meghan Trainor, and Celine Dion have also had to quit touring to get their cords surgically repaired. In a mark of how added, and so forth. There is no precise data on the number of performers who have gone under the knife over the years, but several surgeons told me they estimate, this is again, Barnhard Warner is the author. Several surgeons have told me they estimate that vocal cord surgery has been performed on thousands of pop, rock, and classical singers, as well as on theater and stage musical stars. Canceled shows reverberate across social media and hit a struggling music industry hard. Adele had to pull out of her remaining 2 Wembley shows this summer. Nearly 200,000 tickets had to be refunded. It's unclear if she'll ever tour again. Going on, while the media is celebrating this miracle surgery, one woman in the music industry raised a dissenting voice. According to Lisa Paglin, a former opera singer turned voice coach, Seidels had simply found a temporary fix. In the not too distant future, Adele would once again be forced off the stage and back into the operating theater. That's the English term for the operating room. It was a prediction that Paglin and Mariana Brilla, her coaching partner, were willing to stake their reputations on. The rash of vocal injuries silencing our most promising young talents, they argued, is too big a problem to be solved by microsurgery. Now, the point of this isn't to pit the surgeons and the medical field against, vocal coaches or something like that, but just to point out that the problem is epidemic in its size. Okay, how many search going on? This is quoting one of these, this is quoting Paglin. She said, how many surgeries would Dr. Seidels consider performing on Adele? or on anyone after surgery unless the singer makes major changes. Returning to performing means a return to vocal abuse that put her or him on the operating room table in the first place, Paglin wrote in the small trade publication Intermezzo. Quote, concerts, injury, surgery, rest, concerts, injury, surgery. Is this the life of the professional singer? When Adele canceled her final notes of her tour, Brilla and Paglin felt saddened, but vindicated. For more than a decade, they've been pushing for a revolution in the way that almost every modern performer has been taught to use their voice. After years of painstaking research in musical archives, early scientific journals, and the classroom, Brilla and Paglin say they can deliver what medical science has failed to, a permanent fix for vocal burnout. Their solution requires a revival of an all but vanished singing method that is not just beautiful to the ear, but also easy on the throat. Some of their aging and beleaguered clients described it to me as a kind of fountain of youth. But their cure is not without controversy. It is based on a provocative theory that has been gaining ground among a small cadre of international talents, that we've all been singing completely wrong. Even Adele, unquote. So they go on to say, singing's a rough business. Every vocal performance involves hundreds of thousands of micro collisions in the throat. The vocal cords, also known as vocal folds, are a pair of thin reed-like muscular strips located inside the larynx or the voice box in the throat. They are shaped like a wishbone and contain the densest concentration of nerve tissue in the body. And so on. So, this article goes on to state that they have compared recordings, videos, the recorded albums, movies of singers in the past, and these are primarily classical operatic characters that they're studying, like Caruso and Gigli, and they found that compared to today's singers, they all look as if they're singing effortlessly, with without the veins sticking out of their neck and without their mouths open wide and their eyes bulging and so forth, and that the recordings reflect such. They're not singing. They're not over-singing. They're not singing so loud, but it's beautiful singing and it's healthy singing. And these people didn't suffer the consequences of what appears to be now epidemic. And so when I saw this article, and there's so much more. It's like 10 pages of, and I really encourage you to read this because it's excellent. But I have to say that my mentor and teacher, Seth Riggs, has been preaching this ever since I've known him for 20 years, I've been following Seth, and I know he's been trying to spread, like a voice in the wilderness, trying to get this message out from 40 years, more than 40 years. And so it's a really difficult message to present because, and I know, just like, for example, on Broadway, you can't go to a Broadway show anymore without being confronted with essentially what I term just yelling. But it's a very hard belt. It's a very loud belt. And we're not talking about one night a week or two nights a week. We're talking about 7 to 8 times a week, including the matinee. And so that's it's week after week after week, and maybe depending on the show into months, and then maybe longer than maybe into years. And so these cast members who are required by the songs, and this is not all Broadway shows, but many of the shows are, and their musical directors are requiring this such loud belting singing that within a couple years, at the most, they have to get a new cast of singers because the voice simply can't hold up. And the problem is now that this is what people expect to hear now, because that's what we've been feeding them. This is what teachers start teaching, and the teachers teach it because they want their students to get. Students want to get on Broadway, and so it's self-perpetuating, and we're losing. We've lost the beautiful singing of the past. So anyway, I'm going to get off. It's not really a soapbox. I think it's the truth, and yet we can have tremendous power in our voice. We can have tremendous beauty in the voice, and tremendous facility and flexibility. And it doesn't have to be until you're 35 or 40 years old. It can be in your 50s, into your 60s, into your 70s. That's one of the things this article points out. They have singers over there in their 80s, and I've heard recordings of some of Seth Riggs' students in their 80s. Well, of singers who are fabulous singers. And that's because they're singing healthy. They're not over-singing. They're not abusing. They're not pulling chest. Very, very common occurrence, pulling the chest voice. And so it just simply vindicates what Seth has been teaching and is trying to get the word out. So when I get people who want to know, okay, how can I get distortion in my voice? I try and get distortion out of the voice. How can I get, how can I sound like this guy who screams, or this belter or whatever? I really am not building that kind of a foundation, and I'm not ashamed of that. I'm so grateful for the health of my own voice, even at age, you ready for this, 64. And I'm hoping that I can preserve it for another 20 years at least, and be able to, one of the things that is difficult, and they didn't talk about this, but the acid reflux. That's a tough one. I'm working on it. I'm trying to change my diet a little bit. But sometimes the reflux, it gets you, and there's nothing that you've done with your singing, it's with your eating. So anyway, with that, I encourage you to read this article. Go to Power to Sing, the Power to Sing Facebook page, and click on it. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a read. You'll want to take about 15, 20 minutes to go through it, but it's so informative. Okay, so I'm interested in any comments about that, and let's do some Q&A and see what's going on. Welcome to those of you who haven't greeted yet. Diamond Mitchell, hi. Bunny Val, nice to have you with me today, with us all and joining this group. In Marvelous, nice to have you here. Charles, Young, Altu, great to have you. Christina, hi. How are you, Christina? Okay, so let me back up here and see if we can't get to some of these. Ty Wilson says, my voice strains when I sing too hard, and that is part of the problem, isn't it? Whenever we sing too hard or over-sing, then we are introducing strain to the voice, and it just is very, very challenging, very difficult. So Vardu, nice to see you again also. Vardu hi. Sorry. Okay. Can you talk about breathing while singing? Yeah, let me suggest first of all that anyone who has a question about breathing, there are a couple of videos that I think are important, and they're on my home. They're on the home screen. They're on my in my homepage, on my homepage, powertosing.com. Go to the Knowledge Center. I'm going to show you how to do this. Here's the menu. And if you go to on the right-hand side, there's a categories. You can drop down categories. You can go to that, and then in the case of breathing, hit breath control. There's so many different topics there. I recommend that you go there and check them out. But there's an episode number 15 and number 16, singing tips, diaphragm breathing, and how to sing breath with the diaphragm, or breathing with the diaphragm. I recommend those two for you to start out with, because they're going to talk very extensively about the use of the diaphragm. And so it's a great question. A lot of people have this, and so Ty, all I can say is, it's a little bit tough to do this. It's easier to do it when when a student is actually here present with me, and so videos and even broadcasts are difficult. But if I stand here and just give you a profile, when you inhale, the tummy comes out, and when you exhale, or you're using your words, you're kind of pulling it in gently. And if I were to say, if I were just blow out the air, then that's a fast way of illustrating that tummy out, air in, and then as you're singing, or even as you're speaking, you're gently, or you're allowing the tummy to just return. You don't want to jerk it in, like I just illustrated on that breathing, but you don't want to jerk your stomach in when you're singing, or even when you're speaking, because you're going to force the air out. That doesn't work. But I imagine there's a little string attached to the belly button, and I'm just gently helping it return. So the tummy comes out, air goes in, and then as I'm using the air, it returns. Now there's a reason for that. And the diaphragm's a little umbrella-shaped, not a little, it's a large umbrella-shaped muscle that fits underneath the rib cage, and it flattens out. And as it flattens out, it drops down. And as it drops down, it's expanding the lung area. It's expanding the area inside the rib cage in the lungs, and so that it's creating a vacuum, and that vacuum is pulling air in. So actually, as your tummy comes out, air is pulled in as this vacuum is created by the dropping diaphragm, and that's how you get your air. And then as the diaphragm retracts back up into the rib cage and goes back up into its umbrella shape, the air that's part of the mechanism that's helping the airflow out and up to the cord structure, and then through the cords, and then which creates a sound wave. It's really that simple. Simple to say, and sometimes it's challenging to do. But once you get it, and it becomes second nature, then you don't think about it. That's the way you get your air when you sing and speak. So watch those videos. They're going to help, and spend some time on them. There's about 3 or 4 others that I reference when we're talking about breathing. Okay. So John, let me see here. John Hansen, do you think Axl Rose take a break to protect vocals? Oh, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I just not sure. Funny, Val. I'm extremely loud. I've never had power issues. Okay, I almost can't sing quietly. If I don't feel strain, is it still damaged city? Not necessarily. There's some people who just have big voices, but one way to kind of take care of governing your vocals is, and we want to be able to sing quietly too, right? So eventually we want to be able to have every tool in our bag. So first of all, we want to make sure that the vibrato is nice and even. Ma 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 ma. But if we find the vibrato not even or labored or difficult, now we want to check it in each note of the bridge. That's the first, that was the G. So for a guy, the F sharp, the F, ma 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 ma. That's right in the middle of the bridge. For the ladies, it would be like the B above the high B. Ma 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 ma. Sorry. Ma 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 ma. We want to make sure that the vibrato is nice and even throughout your range, in the bridges, in your chest, in your head voice. And yeah, you want to be able to, what if you want to sing a soft song or sing a lullaby or something? You want to be able to have that facility to be able to ma 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 ma. We want to be able to do that, right? Otherwise we're limited in some way. So you certainly have that ability. How can I sing slow and soft? How can I sing slow and soft voice? Well, I'm singing slow. That's how you sing slow. Go slow. And soft? Well, I just illustrated that. But it helps to be able to learn to know how to bridge. That is, go from your chest to your head voice, get that mixed voice going, and find the balance. You have to work always on balance between the air coming up and the vocal cords and how the vocal cords are interacting with that air. So that's really the key to most of this, is having the balance. A good balance of air and muscle. That is no tension, just the vocal cords, finding that sweet spot with the air. And that's when we are pretty much at our speech level. That's how we talk generally, if we talk normally. Charles Young asks, I want to ask, can I mix chest voice above G4? Now it's pretty much head voice at that point. It's just a law of physics. By the time you get to the G, the resonance is in your head, or it should be. So that resonance, it doesn't care that you want to you want to mix it higher. It just is going in your head. And so once you hit the F sharp, you're pretty much about 75% all the, of head voice is coming in. And by the time you get to the G4, it's pretty much just head voice. Ladies have a little more of this. They get to the C sharp 5 and they still have some element of chest. And there's really, until they reach the high G, before they pretty much have no semblance of the chest left. Now, one thing I will say, Charles, is that I'm talking about connected head voice. I'm not talking about falsetto. That's not what we're talking about here. So, that's a connected head voice. That's not my chest voice. That's not even mixed. That's head, and but it's not falsetto. Now that's falsetto. That break is falsetto. So some people get those terms mixed up. So yes, it's possible to have a head voice that's connected all the way up to however far up there you can sing, whatever your range is. I can sing That's the E5, and that's connected. That's not falsetto. Alto. I read articles a few days ago. Oh, he read the article. And I thought, why a singer with so many opportunities would not change her technique? I mean, she has access to many great teachers. Alto, that's really a good point. You know, I think we do it to her. I think her fans expect a sound, and the artist is worried that if they don't give that sound to them, especially live, that they're going to be disappointed. And I suppose, you know, rather than risk the possibility of disappointing a fan or the fans, we give them what they want, and that's what we think. And so I agree with you. I think it's something that it requires a tremendous amount of risk on the, and I'm, you know, I think the safest way is that we just never go there. We never go to the abuse, and that we work on you know, careful, you know, beautiful and healthy singing, and I think in time, then fans would become used to that and would appreciate it, and appreciate the artistry of it. So I think that fans put a lot of pressure on the artists and on their, you know, their favorite singers, and if they don't do it, they don't do what you know, that sound that they want, they leave them. I don't know. What do you guys think? Old masters sang through big orchestra and they were heard. That's right. Why do people have to belt, sing louder? Is it a shortcut for loud singing, whereas building strength takes time? Alto, I think you are so right on. It's very fast. You could find a lot of people online, a lot of teachers online that will teach you to sing loud. But in doing so, they're also introducing tremendous amounts of tension and pressure that, in my judgment, is not going to be you can't sustain through the years. And we lose our patience as students. We want it now. We want it immediately because your friend does, and they just started lessons 2 weeks ago or something, you know. And so it does take time. It's just like if you were going to the gym and you wanted to compete in a bodybuilding contest, you know, you don't go for two weeks or 2 months or 2 years sometimes. It's, you know, why did the vocal cords be any different? We think because we speak all day that we should be able to sing tremendous, you know, great, with power and ability and all that. But it takes time to really develop the coordination, to develop the release, the freedom of tension, the balance between the air and the muscle, and the coordination. That is like on every note, in every bridge, in every register, with vibrato, and sustaining it, and doing it on a melody. It just does take an investment of time. And some of us are just too impatient. I think that's really perceptive, Alto. Thank you. Christina is back on the East Coast and grateful. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Christina. I appreciate that. Thank you. Chris Stangerlin. Hi, Chris. Do some styles like rock have some sort of expiring date? Chris Connell's high belts sounds great up until his last day. You know, some singers, they can do it, and but I don't know what their journey has been like. I don't know whether they have vocal cords of steel, you know, or whether they've had to take years of vocal rest, or I don't know. And I don't know that singer that you're citing here. I'm sorry, Chris Cornell's high belts. I don't, you know, some singers have a gift, and they can bridge naturally. They don't spread their vowels. They don't abuse, and they're able to do some of the more extravagant things. They maybe have a good coach that keeps their voices balanced, or tries to keep them there. I mean, Michael Jackson, for example, never got into trouble, and Seth Riggs kept him healthy. Stevie Wonder, Seth Riggs worked with right after Stevie Wonder was like 19 years old and had surgery on his vocal cords. Yeah, they hired Seth to rehab Stevie Wonder, and to my knowledge, Stevie Wonder never ever again had to undergo any kind of surgery. And I think it's the foundation of good singing that Seth brought about. There's a lot of singers who Seth dealt with, who he was able to help them when like a director or a music director required a certain kind of sound. Seth was able to show them a healthy way to do it. And so I think there are ways that you can be somewhat extravagant periodically in a healthy way, or a more healthy way, so that you don't damage your voice. And I think that takes a lot of training and some care. But I think it's hard. I think it's hard to do that because some people just demand yelling. Hi, Sterney. Agreeing with everything you were saying. I've been doing the Nay exercises and the Go Dopey voice. I get a rattle during the exercise, which is generally what I'm trying to work through. I've been told it is about retraining the vocal folds to come together efficiently. Since I've always sung with a tremendous volume, therefore my chords don't know how to come together with less volume and pressure. So much incredible information on your website. Thanks. Yes, you're learning to walk again. You're relearning something, and I've got to tell you that it's almost easier sometimes to take a student who hasn't sung and teach them how to do it correctly than it is to take someone like myself who brought with them many years of habits. It's so hard to let go of the habit, and yet, and once we do, it's wonderful. But we've got to retrain our nervous system, so it's going to be something that we haven't felt before. We have to, and then we have to trust that, and it's hard. That's a hard thing to do. I still revert back to, and you've heard me say this almost every week, Pavarotti in an interview. They were interviewing him, Marilyn Horne, and one other lady. Now I can't remember which one. They asked him how, and he showed this note on the F, and how long it took him. He said, "That may sound easy. Take maybe 10 years." 10 years for Pavarotti. Okay. Johnny Hansen says, "Thank you for, you helped me a lot. I can sing easier now because you, and thank you." Thank you, Johnny. I really appreciate that feedback. I'm glad as things are help, or that you finding these things helpful. Nothing. Hi, nothing. I have a question about the tongue twirl exercise. It's not really hard for me to do. I almost feel tension when I try and do it. Yeah. So be sure that sometimes I find that students struggle with this because their voice isn't, there needs to be a balance of the voice as well as the air. But if some, or same thing with the bubbles. But if there isn't enough voice there, in other words, if the vocal cords aren't coming together and making sound, and you're saying, it's better to say, but you're saying, so a lot of air is escaping, then that can increase some tension. Or maybe the lips are too tight, or the tongue is too tight. We have to do it too hard. And so it creates a lot of tension. So again, we're just trying to find this non-tension state where, so if you can do it softly, The other thing is that some people, and I'm not saying this is you, because this usually stops the tongue. If they're using the tongue to create the pitch or to manage the pitch or change the pitch, then the tongue will stop its flutter. It'll just stop, and so there's tension introduced to the tongue, and that slows it or stops it because they're trying to adjust the pitch. The pitch should only be adjusted by the vocal cords and the tensioning of the vocal cords. Don't know for sure if that's your situation, but I found a way to make it easier for everybody usually is to make sure that you're giving plenty of voice, rather than just a tip. Your advice on SLS has been a big help. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. Christina, for me, breathing, it helped to think of my lungs not as balloon air rushing out when it's inflated, but rather as a Ziploc bag when air comes out if you make it come out. Okay, yeah. So kind of taking control of it, not just escaping. Thanks for that comment. Chris, hi Chris. You seem very nice and passionate. Thanks for donating your time to us. Thank you. Funny Val says, find balance between too breathy or too much timbre. Find balance between too breathy or too much timbre. How do you find balance between too breathy, or maybe I'd say how to find balance between too breathy and too much. Balance is an interesting thing. I think it's experimental, you know. I think it helps to record yourself and listen to the demonstrations that you're hearing and compare the recording to the demonstrations you're hearing to see if they're the same. But generally speaking, it's a bit of an experiment. And so if there's tension, something's not right. If it's too tense, there's maybe not enough relaxation, so there's not, you know, the vocal cords are holding back too much air, and so there's more tension in it. Or there's too little tension, so a lot of air is escaping. And now the larynx starts to come up because it realizes something isn't right, and it wants to try and get more power, and so, you know, things are just out of whack. So it's a challenge. So if you're learning to tightrope, if you ever walked across a tightrope or just a little narrow board, I can say hold your arms out, balance yourself, but you're the one that's got to do it. It's just, you know, it's tough. You're welcome, Charles. Glenn Beckwith, hello. Chris says, need exceptional people or really that exceptions? Thanks for your answer. Just love rock singing. Great. You know, everybody's got their genre, and I don't begrudge that for anybody. Just be healthy about it. Healthy singing. You're welcome. Sturdy. Glenn Beckwith, when you listen to Harry Styles while he's singing the second verse in a sign of the times, is it vibrato or is it just very high voice? You know, I don't know, but if I sang a very high voice, there's a straight tone, and there's a high voice with a vibrato. So, which does it sound like? Straight tone or a vibrato? Nothing. Thanks for your answer. I think it was doing it too breathy. Great. Okay, it's quarter till the hour, and thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your being with me. I appreciate your great questions. Thanks there were so many great comments today, and also helping one another. And that's very helpful, very much appreciated. So, beautiful singing. It's a bit of a quest, and it's so possible for us all. I think that one of the great benefits of beautiful singing is that it's healthy. and that it will last a lifetime, and we don't have to give up our career early, and that we can take this to the grave virtually, and that our whole lives can be filled with wonderful music and the fulfillment and the joy of being able to connect through song with others. So I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video. There's another one posted on Friday, and join me each week this hour. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Thanks, and see you next time. Bye-bye.